five strangers with nothing in common except each other. I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. But at number 24 on my list, it's the classic Breakfast Club. Welcome to Long Play Video.
Always be recorded.
we decided to start the recording this week when we start talking about the film rather than what we usually do. Yeah. No, I think that's we're here, we're recording. We may as well make sure that we're recording when we're talking about the film. So welcome back. Join us for the conversation that we're having as we're movie podcast that we've already started. Obviously we're eager to get into it. Number 24, we're in the top quarter of the list. And number 24 on the list is the classic Breakfast Club from 1985. Now, for a lot of our listeners in other demographics, 1985 was a year in the late 1900s. That is a distant memory. Ridiculous. Now you might know it from such classics as Back to the Future and other gems. So here we go. We've sort of been on a run of movies in the 2000s. It's been a while since we've had an 80s movie, actually. The Return of the Jedi, in actual fact, last 80s movie, which doesn't really count because it's not an 80s movie.
That wasn't. And that wasn't we didn't like that much. So that was.
No, I did. I still liked it. It's still.
Nah, you don't like it. So trust me.
You can't remember what we talked about. So this is obviously the John Hughes film. It's just sort of one of those films that, as I was putting together my top 100, obviously Breakfast Club is going to be on it. Pure nostalgia, but like. Watch this film over and over again, and then sort of John Hughes as a director, just sort of the impact that he had on on Generation X and kind of everything is difficult to even explain sort of now. I mean, it's so funny when you actually look at. Obviously, he had kind of all the films that he's famous for. So 16 Candles and this and Weird Science, and Some Kind of Wonderful, Ferris Bueller, Pretty in Pink, and then sort of well, that's the thing, sort of does still then keep going. Obviously he did all of the National Lampoon, like Vacation, Christmas Vacation. He goes on, does Home Alone, Miracle on 34th Street, which is which I love great. And then kind of does the Beethoven movies and stuff, which sort of did quite well as well. But it's almost like he sort of, again, his entire career spans more, but like just this like 6 years where he does these films and almost he becomes a genre, right? The John Hughes sort of teenage coming of age,
known, isn't it?
Genre is just sort of set in stone. For a generation, which is funny because also obviously like 1985, like I was 6, so I didn't see Breakfast Club or any of these films almost until I was in my early teens, right? So that's sort of like 5-6 years after they actually they came out. But again, because the choice of channels and stuff was so sort of limited, then these were just films that you had on video and then on DVD that you just kind of watched over and over again. Even kind of coming to them much later. Like I was, funnily enough, was listening to a podcast about this, and people were like, "Oh, this is such an important film." I went to the cinema, and I was kind of like, "Oh, like." It would have been weird going to see this in the cinema. Like it's not even in my like consciousness that you could do that. Almost it's like this is like a video, and or would always be a video. I literally, as he said it, I was like, oh yeah, I guess this did come out of the cinema. Like, what would that have been like?
It was a normal film.
Because it's almost just not. It's funny, like it is a film in the past to me, but also just then felt very relevant, like going into teenage years where these were all films that actually had teenagers at the center of their story, but like
Mm.
in a very different way, almost in a like where the teenagers aren't just kind of like gross out or like sort
Yeah.
of slightly weird like Porky's and all of that, which was very much like the type of teenage movie before
Yeah.
this. And so it was just kind
Very
of for
different.
the first time kind of targeted at teenagers in a not like talking down to, but like in a like sort of they're accepted and part of the film. And obviously John Hughes was like, I think he was like 30 when
Yeah.
he wrote this, so
Oh, really?
it is a bit weird. Um,
Well, I
but
guess it
like
must have been based on his history, though, right? What he remembered when he was younger, and then he's using his older mind to narrate the story a bit, a
yeah, I
bit
mean
more
maybe, but
rounded.
like that's the thing. Like being a teenager in the 80s, difference between being a teenager
Yeah,
at the beginning of the 70s when he would be a teenager, like that. Those
same
times
sort of
feel
thing, I guess, right? No?
I don't know, feel pretty different because you're kind of coming out of the 60s, right? You got
Yeah.
sort of Vietnam again, like over everything in the US. So I don't know.
Mm.
It doesn't feel like it's written for
But he
like
did have that purple patch, though, didn't he? Like he absolutely, like he just got into the psyche of it. Like you said, this
yeah
Ferris Bueller, Pretty in Pink, Weird Science. He just kept home run after home run. It was in that exact channel every time of that sort of, those sort of teen sort of movies. So
yeah
I don't know. I don't know what his inspiration was. Whether he just wrote all this stuff down when he was younger and then had ideas and builded them into films when he was older, but he
yeah. I
definitely
mean
like he got right into the psyche, didn't he, of the sort
yeah.
of teen movie.
Yeah, and allegedly not. Like the stories around John Hughes is that he wrote this movie in like a weekend. He could
Oh
like
yeah,
the stories around him were always, he would write an entire screenplay over like
yeah,
3 to 4 days.
yeah.
And that it
Which
would
I
just
could get
kind
that with
of
Beethoven. That makes sense. Yeah,
so there's this dog.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yep.
yeah, like for you like the John Hughes movies and stuff. Just
Oh
I
yeah,
presume it was the same, right? Just
yeah.
part of growing up.
Yeah, exactly. All of the like, there's so many, like you said, all the National Lampoons, and he was synonymous, right? People knew who he was, and obviously, as things have gone on more as well, and it's easier to go back and watch all these things, one after the other. I think he has been really well renowned for this, but I mean, how rare is it to have so many hits after hit after hit? And then we look at his later career and we see, yeah, it is difficult because then he falls out of it completely and he makes like 500 Home Alone films, a million Beethoven films, and you're like, yeah, okay, things did get bad. So he just had this like purple patch where like everything he seemed to write just seemed to turn to gold. He picked the right people, he had the right stories, and I guess it was just at the right sort of time where people really wanted those sort of films. And yeah, I mean, God, I remember watching Weird Science. That was just so different, and that was really funny. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, absolute classic. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I mean, and you've got such good actors in these, like even well-known actors that are still well-known today, in these movies. And so, yeah, very, very impressive, really, in that early part of his writing career. Um, and then, yeah, I guess this sort of falls within that quite nicely, doesn't it? It's interesting because I've seen The Breakfast Club a number of times, but I'm not, and I am a massive fan of the 80s, but I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of The Breakfast Club.
No.
So, yeah, I think I feel like it's a bit too slow for me. I
Mm.
think from memory from when I last watched it. So I'm not sure. I'm going to be interested to see what it's like. How long is it? Is it
It's a
the old
classic
classic 90?
80s.
Yeah,
Yeah, classic 80s
90
length, 1 hour
minutes.
37.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, good. No, and of that, 5 minutes will be the opening credits, so that's good.
With the
So
killer
yeah,
track over it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think the reason that I like it probably is some of that slowness. That it is
the
a
characters.
it is like a writer's film in a lot of ways, right? It's sort of set
Yeah,
basically in like in one school, so one setting. There's probably like
yeah,
I don't know five different sets the entire time.
mm,
And
yeah,
just before we were saying, obviously that's why it only cost $1 million to make.
Yeah.
kind of at the
It's
time,
mad to
because it's
think, a
just,
million.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, people get paid like that would be like what, a fifth of what one actor gets paid now. It just seems crazy, doesn't it? The whole film
Yeah,
cost a million.
yeah.
Mad.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So and yeah, and I think it really does speak to, yeah, like I think it really captures what for me was like how you viewed high school almost more than
Mm.
the lived experience. But like
Yeah.
I definitely grew up sort of thinking like this was the representation of American high school, right? Where there was, all these different groups, and it was sort of, it was not rammed down your throat, but like it was in every
Mm.
movie after this. That was it. Like you had all the different groups, and you had all,
Yeah.
like, they were completely distinct. And then that's the thing. Like, yeah, at high school, at secondary school, you did recognize this. Although obviously, like, yeah, I
Mm.
think it's a lot more fluent than this sort of talks to, because it's trying to make the point. But I do
Yeah.
think it's so well crafted with all of the, with kind of how it's written, and like all of the
Mm.
different groups and all of the different types of people that you
Yeah.
are when you're a teenager, that like you kind of want to fit in, but then you don't want to fit in, and like fitting in actually
Yeah.
has its own problems and stuff. And I just think it's, like, as a teenager watching this, it just felt really
Yeah.
sort of,
Resonated.
resonated with me. Yeah. And yeah, you could just
Would you
kind of,
say this
watch it.
is, would you say then this is a well-written Empire Records? Is that is that a fair description?
But that's the thing. Like Empire Records, they're all in the same gang almost. Like what this is obviously trying to do is take each of the stereotypes, which again, like
Yeah.
the movie admits that they're stereotypes and plays into the
Mm.
stereotypes,
Oh,
and
for
then kind of
sure.
says the question of like, well, do you have to be a stereotype? Like,
Yeah.
actually, can you be different? And I don't think that the film kind of asks that question and doesn't answer it. It doesn't, like, it's we'll kind of, we'll watch the movie first, but like when
Mm.
they all become friends,
Yeah.
it doesn't sort of end happily in a lot of ways. It
Yeah.
sort of says, yeah, but on Monday when they all come back to school,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
They're
probably
not
not
going to
going
be
to be
friends
friends,
anymore.
right? And
No.
that's,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. And so I do think
Mm.
again, it's sort of what for me, I think I really resonated with me kind of at the time of like watching it when I was much younger. It is that
Mm.
kind of, you never really know people, right? You never, like, everyone's got a backstory that you don't know about, and that there's
It's true.
reasons why
Yeah.
people are like the way they are, and you kind of have sympathy for them, right? And I think that for me is, like, what I'm always conscious of. You bump into
Yeah. It's
someone
true.
and they're, on the street, and they're aggro. You don't know whether, what's happened to them. And I think even as a kid, I was always very aware of that, because I kind of, always felt
Mm.
there was like, okay, kind of how you were at school and stuff. And then
Yeah.
there was like, for me, it very much felt like, and then there was like almost the real me, or how I was in other places and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's funny, like even at sort of, starting work, whenever we had to do psychometric tests, I was always be
Yeah.
like, yeah, but obviously the way that I handle situations changes depending on like who I'm handling and who I'm dealing with, right? That's the same for everyone. And
Uh,
that's the thing, like,
I
so
could just picture
this
you having that argument. I could see it. I don't want to do this because this isn't how. It's not a real life example. So I would act differently.
I
Just do
walked
the
into a
test,
training.
Andy.
I walked into a training once at a job, and literally the trainer said, "It's Friday morning. I've been doing all this all the time." And Andy walks in, and he just like sighed. I was a bit like, "That's a bit rude. What? Why are you saying
Yeah.
that?"
Yeah. So let me picture the scene. Yeah.
So just ask polite questions. I'm sure that he enjoyed
Yeah,
me
of course.
challenging his way. I'm sure he's a much better trainer afterwards. Yeah. So for this, like, out of kind of the out of the high school ones. So if you take like
Mm,
16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink,
yeah.
this for me, funnily enough, I've still to this day never watched 16 Candles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Me neither.
Yeah, not maybe a shock,
Yeah.
because 16 isn't really a thing in the UK. So like, I just really
Mm,
get it. Weird Science, I presume doesn't hold up at all. And Pretty in Pink as well was just, it was just a bit too much for me.
Too
So
much
yeah,
pink.
I just never really, never really resonated with me at all. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was, this for me and all of those. Obviously, Ferris Bueller, we may well talk about another day in the
Oh,
coming weeks.
classic. Yeah.
But yeah, but for me, this is just, so sort of entwined with early years watching it.
Mm.
Like sort of influencing the worldview. As a young teenager, then yeah, it's just kind of it had to be in there.
Yeah. I could see how this, yeah, out of all those, this would sit better for you as well. Because like you like that characterization, right? All those the characters being really built up and like extended and seeing exactly who they are. And as you said, they are might be the jock, but they're the jock because, actually what happens in their home life or something that else that's happened to them when they were younger that actually has led them down that path. And it's funny, isn't it? At that sort of point at school, you do always have these personas, and often it's these personas have been pushed on you to a bit, whether it's from your, nature nurture, whether it's, the people that you end up being friends with at school. And then actually, obviously, as you get older, you just sort of settle into the person that you are,
Yeah,
which isn't necessarily the person you were at school, right? So
yeah,
it's, I guess it does a good job, this film, of trying to start introducing that thought into people's minds of just because they set into a sort of, you're in a sort of typecast to a certain group at school, that doesn't actually mean that's who you are. And it doesn't mean that, everything's all like hunky dory as well. People always differently have different problems as well. So,
yeah.
yeah, I could see how, yeah, this characterization film would be high on your list. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, obviously we've just done we've just done Talented Mr. Ripley, which is obviously a darker version of
Yeah.
this, but it's also
Yeah.
it is that just if you take yourself out of your everyday, which is what this is, right? They're all in detention,
Yeah.
so they're in amongst people that they wouldn't normally talk to. That
Yeah.
actually, if you talk to anyone and you actually get to know them, most people
Yeah.
kind of are the same. I know, like that, everyone has
Yeah.
stuff that they're dealing with. Actually, like, yeah, you would get on with most people if you actually spent
Yeah.
some time with them, because you would just understand and appreciate where they're coming from and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
do think that sort of resonated with me then. I think it's still the same now. Whereas,
Yeah.
everyone gets into their echo chambers, and so then it doesn't hear what the other person is saying. But actually, like,
Yeah.
regardless, most people are just people trying to get through every day, trying
Just
to
trying to get through. Yeah.
live the life that would be nice. And everyone
Yeah.
kind of wants the same things, right? So
Yeah. I am going to be interested to see about the pace, I must admit. Like, and it will be interesting. I'm trying to think the last time I would have watched the John Hughes film. I mean, I guess it would have been Home Alone. So, but
I guess
not.
it would have been Home Alone yesterday, but apart from
Yeah.
that,
So yeah, Home Alone. It's not the same, like you're saying, in this sort of ilk of that these sort of coming of age films that he did. I think if I think about those
yeah,
ones, I haven't seen those for a long time. So I'm going to be very interested to see what I think about this one.
yeah.
Good cast in it, right? Good actors. I guess similar to like what we're saying about Scott Pilgrim, where you got quite a lot of people in this. Are they all famous in this at this point? I guess
Yeah,
Molly Ringwald have been famous?
so obviously, like, Molly Ringwald, especially because of
Yeah,
16 Candles, and then obviously the same with Anthony Michael Hall, right? So they sort of
yeah,
became
yeah.
like, staples of his films. um
Mm,
and then I think it was sort of, people, kind of, because he started this genre, then
yeah,
these were the people that were kind of, were in a lot of those films, and then kind of, went on and did, sort of similar, because you had these kind of like teenage movies that all of a sudden kind of, started coming out,
yeah,
like, and kind of Outsiders almost, sort of started it all. And I mean, if you look at the cast in Outsiders, it's just like
yeah.
ridiculous.
Just bonkers, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
like
think
with
that's the
everyone
thing,
in it.
right? That's what we were talking about, like with Talented Mr. Ripley, and then obviously with Scott Pilgrim, is being able to get that volume of quality actors together. You could only do it when they were young because you couldn't afford to do it when they're older. And so it's
Yeah,
quite nice to see them because you're like, oh, they're just starting to come up. you can tell that they're good. Maybe they're not, at the absolute peak of their game, but they are good. And you've got so many of them, batting off each other, and you're just like, wow, it's really enjoyable just seeing people work that well together. And often you just don't get that, do you? Because you have like one main actor or one main actress, maybe, and maybe supporting actors and actresses. And it's not quite the same as just having 5 or 6 big names, or everyone the same sort of level
Yeah.
in a film. So I think that, as we said, we found that worked well with Talented Mr. Ripley and Scott Pilgrim. So
Yeah, and especially like I think
if it works,
yeah,
yeah,
you get to like the obviously like obviously they're playing high schoolers, but they're all like in their
yeah,
early 20s, apart from Molly Ringwald, who was like 17 or something when she did this, and was sort
oh
of the
wow,
teenage
okay,
muse for all of the movies. But yeah, like
yeah,
the rest are kind of in their young 20s, so it's not sort of having to deal with teenagers on set and stuff as much, right?
yeah,
Because it is, Emilio Estevez obviously kind of grew up in an acting
yeah,
household and stuff as well, and had done
yeah.
films before.
Well,
But
I guess
again, I
we should
think
say
it's
for Gen Z, they might not understand that he's Charlie Sheen's brother, Martin Sheen's son,
yeah,
be
exactly,
called
yeah.
Emilio Estevez. But
Yeah, maybe. I
yeah,
mean, it's 7 years until he's in the classic Free Jack, so that's probably what most people
yeah,
identify him with.
that's when you
So,
remember him from. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
true.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
oh wow, he was in films before Free Jack. You couldn't tell.
Ow.
But again, like I think even with that, right, this is almost kind of going back to In Bruges. I think in some ways this could be a play very easily, right? This
Yeah.
is sort of the five of them very much like in one setting,
Mm.
and in some ways again it is a bit of like a morality play, right? Where again it's sort of understanding what each of them are like,
Yeah.
where they're coming. You get sort of them talking through. So yeah, I do think from that point of view, it's difficult to do. Like, for
Yeah.
have 5 people that are on
Yeah.
screen more or less the entire time, and
Yeah.
are sort of portraying the different types of personality that you have.
Yeah.
So
And like for
yeah,
an
no,
hour and 37 as well, right? So you don't get
well,
much time to develop them.
yeah, but that's also the kind
Mm.
of thing, right? Again, as we sort of often say, now this would be sort of like a 2 hour 15 movie,
Yeah.
and I do think this was where it really suits it. Is like in and out.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
got an hour 30, 90-minute movie. It
Yeah.
just sort of works as a length, because anything more or a couple more scenes and stuff, it's
Yeah.
where you start the story and where you stop the story, right? And I think
Yeah.
this is especially like for people in Gen X, but also just generally. I don't really want to make it a generational thing. That we'll do
Yeah.
that on another pod.
Yeah.
But like it's sort of, it's interesting, is obviously it's like them getting dropped off and them getting picked up, like starts and finishes the
Yeah.
movie. But like
Yeah.
even that part of it, I think, is quite interesting. Like the way that they're all
Yeah.
dropped off sort of speaks
Yeah. The
volumes. And
cars.
so
Yeah.
so then that's the thing. It's like, again, well, where are
Yeah.
you telling the story from, and why are you
Yeah.
choosing that point to tell the story? And I think it just
Yeah.
works really well.
It's almost like the social economics, right? You're not even saying anything. You can just see from how they're dropped off. Ah,
Yeah,
we understand who's in what group already before
yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
even said anything. And a lot of
yeah.
that is due to just how they were brought up, and whether they had money or not.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think it's just
Mm.
it has a lot of emotional resonance, and
Yeah.
like like it is pure nostalgia. I do not know the last time I watched this movie. I would probably
Yeah.
say
Wow.
could be
1986.
could be
That
like
could be awkward. Yeah.
let's see what happens. Well, this was, funny enough, it was R-rated when it came out in the US. I think it was always.
No.
Yeah. No, I
It
think
was still a 15. How is it
yeah,
15?
yeah.
That seems bonkers.
Compared
Is
to
there a lot
other
of
things.
language?
I think there's some. I think like obviously some of the themes,
Hmm.
sort of talking about
Ah,
suicide
okay.
and stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
you sort of, I mean, at the time it was, yeah,
Yeah.
they were trying to protect kids from sort of being exposed to that, I guess. But yeah, pretty
Hmm.
crazy rating. And
Yeah.
again, like Yeah, I definitely wasn't 15 when I first saw this. Like it doesn't feel, maybe
Such a
because it
rebel.
is so, well,
Yeah.
because it is so like it is such a
You're
like
you're
narrative
such a
and
John,
talking.
aren't you? Such a John.
I mean, which character you are is going to be, it's going to take at least 20 minutes of the second half, obviously. So,
Yeah. So funny.
it's all right, Mr. Vernon. You'll be fine. Uh, yeah, no, so yeah, like it was just, yeah, it's just had the video.
Yeah.
Almost, it quite kind of comes sneaks under the radar, right? If my parents ever walked in and I was watching this, they would just be like, "Well, it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of kids sitting around talking, so it's
Yeah.
fine."
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no arms getting blown off or like anything like
No.
that, so you can get away with it.
That's funny that it's a 15. That is crazy. Even now, that it's still a 15. That seems bizarre, but that seems strange, isn't it? What things are deemed okay for you to see and understand and talk about as, like, say, a 15-year-old or like a child. Like, it does seem strange that this would be, that feels really old to me. Like, I feel like there's other
Yeah,
films that are probably PGs that shouldn't be PGs, and they're, and then this is a 15, and you're like, but nothing really happens in it. I mean, obviously the themes, but
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
bizarre.
we'll see.
Well,
Let's see if we can
we
tell
will.
why it's a
Yeah.
15.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get it on. We'll see you after the jump.
Thought provoking, or like
Yeah,
insightful. Yeah. I've seen this film many times before, and I've never been a huge fan of it. And I know it's obviously an 80s classic. I think everyone would always presume that I would love this film, but I've never been a huge fan of it. But I must say, I watched it this time, had a much greater appreciation for it. And I don't know if
yeah,
it was because I'm older or because we were looking at it through more of a critical lens, but the things they talk about and I had a much more appreciation of the things you discuss when you're a kid.
yeah,
It's just it's just so funny, isn't it? When you look back and you just think you forget they are the most important things in your life at that point. Like whether you're a virgin or not is like that. Like you guard that secret with your life. It's just so funny, isn't it? The things that are important to you when you're younger, and they are really important. You know,
yeah,
they're very big.
yeah,
It's just obviously those things become a lot more minor as you get older. But I
yeah,
thought it was really good. I'm still surprised as a 15. There was nothing in there that I really thought, other than I guess I presumed it was the suicide piece is why they've given it the 15. Because other than that, I mean, there's a bit of swearing in it, but
yeah.
I don't know.
There's quite a bit of swearing,
Hmm.
I would say, and yeah, you've got the suicide. I mean, in a
The
way,
suicide, I thought,
it's
yeah,
mature themes, but it's also like
Hmm.
immature themes. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I
yeah,
mean, I guess it's kind of like yeah, it's almost a guidance. Like be 15 or
yeah.
16 the first time that you watch this, and you're just gonna
Yeah.
appreciate it more.
Yeah, you're
Like
right. You'll
if
resonate
you're
with you.
yeah, if you're 12, you're like this. Yeah, this film isn't going to mean anything to you, really. It's
That is
yeah, you
true.
need to. Yeah, maybe it's just more a guidance. Like this is
Yeah, yeah.
P 15.
Yeah.
You can watch
Yeah.
explosions and RoboCop anytime. But
Yeah. Yeah. And you will understand that. But this will just go straight over your head and you'll wonder what's going on. I did also find it was amazing. I looked at the ages of them, of how old they were, because so they're
yeah,
supposed to be in, is it high school or whatever? I can't remember
yeah,
what exactly it
high
is, but they're
school.
supposed to be
Yeah,
about 17 or 18, right?
yeah,
And then they were saying that Molly and Anthony was 16 when it was
yeah,
filmed. Which is, I was like, that's crazy. How, like nowadays, I'm thinking, how often would it be that you'd be younger than the person you're playing? Like that feels like that never happens. You're always older than the person you're
yeah,
playing. So that was, and I thought they were both very impressive for 16 to deliver, the performances they do. And
yeah,
then obviously, yeah, it goes up to Judd being is the oldest and he's 25, which it does seem pretty obvious that he is a bit older. But yeah, the
yeah.
ages are
Well, it's
still pretty young, right?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the same year as St. Elmo's Fire, which I'd never seen. I actually watched
Hmm.
this week, where
Oh,
obviously
really?
like they're all sort of 22,
Yeah.
23 in that film, right? So it's super
Hmm.
bizarre, really, that this came out the same year as that, and so you've
Wow,
got
that
like
is
both a
bizarre.
film where everyone's because it's all three of them is Ali as well. Like all
Yeah.
three of you are high school kids, and then all three of you are like post university
Yeah.
like young adults. It must have been a bit jarring or
Yeah.
yeah. But
Bit surreal, right?
Funnily enough, I did go down a little bit of a Brat Pack
Oh yeah.
rabbit hole then because I watched the Brats documentary as
Oh,
well,
I
which
wanted to
was
watch that. Is it good?
yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's super interesting. I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, like it's. I mean, we didn't even talk about the Brat Pack kind of stuff before, but I
No, we
think
didn't.
it is. Yeah, it is sort of quite interesting just the way that because Andrew McCarthy is the guy who
Yeah.
sort of does it, and he really like he's obviously going through some stuff and he's like
Yeah.
it's like therapy
Yeah.
for him because
Yeah.
he is very clear that he basically thinks it sort of destroyed his career. But then
Really?
and that's kind of the interesting I was sort of thinking about it then with the interesting thing I think for me is that I never really kind of considered I wouldn't say that I was like a Brat Pack sort of
Yeah.
film fan because I haven't as I said before I haven't seen Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
There's Ferris Bueller, but for me, Ferris Bueller is like completely separate to the Brat
Yeah.
Pack. There's yeah, so some kind of wonderful like weird science, but then
Yeah.
yeah, like because I'd never seen St. Elmo's Fire as well, and then you've
Yeah.
got like Demi Moore, and you're like, yeah, but Demi Moore like obviously it didn't
Yeah.
impact her career because Demi Moore's
No.
been arguably one of the biggest yeah actresses in the world
Yeah.
back in
Well,
the day,
even
right?
like Rob Lowe and Matt Dillon, I mean, well, definitely Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe was still like hugely successful.
Well, he
So,
kind of he was he as Rob Lowe, it sort of seems because
mm,
obviously he had sort of the whole alcohol thing, and he did disappear for a
yeah.
little while, right? Then he came back in the 90s and
Yeah.
stuff, and then sort of Emilio Estevez probably was the only guy to kind of make it out.
Yeah.
Andrew
It's
McCarthy
funny,
didn't
isn't
really do
it?
anything.
Well,
I
I
mean,
guess
Mannequin
John
is also
Cusack.
brilliant.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I love
but
Andrew
that's the thing.
McCarthy.
But
He's
that's
so
kind of the
good.
thing. Then they were sort of saying who's in it and who's not in it and stuff. They include John
Yeah.
Cryer because I think he's in
Hmm.
Pretty in Pink, right? But for
Yeah.
me, he's
Okay.
always Hot Shots and Two and a Half Men. And said to my wife,
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't because I've not seen Pretty in Pink, so I just don't consider him part of it. And she was like, oh really?
Yeah.
That's like super weird. So yeah, no, it is funny to sort of see them, yeah, all as an ensemble. And yeah, St. Elmo's
Yeah.
Fire was absolute trash. Whereas this, I just think
Oh,
this
scandal.
is oh, this just it's an awful movie. It's so badly written. Like, I mean, anything that happens in this that's questionable. Emilio Estevez just stalking Andy McDowell in that one, like completely weirdly.
Yeah, that's what just
Just
happened in the 80s.
But I think what because for me, like watching this again, it is just so well written because like
Mm.
the allegiances or the like everyone basically both has a go at and defends everyone in the group, and I think that's what they do really
Yeah.
well is that like it
Yeah.
starts like yeah okay with the princess and the jock and they're sort of in the same kind of
Yeah.
group, but then actually like he then says that she's just feeling sorry for herself, and then Judd actually
Yeah.
comes in and defends her, and then
Yeah.
like he opens up probably a little bit too quickly to
Yeah.
Ali, and so I think that's just the thing. Like I think they all sort of both like criticize and also sort of
Mm.
defend each other really well. It's not like
Yeah.
it's actually becomes a this and them, and then like instantly as soon as the teacher's in the room it's like, well, it's kids
It
versus
is.
teacher. And like they
Yeah.
like
It
even
is
when
us in
they're
here.
like they don't agree with Judd at all. And then like but if it's like giving him up to the teacher, you just don't do it. And you just like
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they're defending him and stuff like that. And I do think they just
Yeah.
that's where John Hughes's writing I think really comes through
Yeah.
is that yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so well written and like the character development is just really great.
And he just gets that sort of age range just perfect, doesn't he? And I think you've nailed it on the head there. Whereas, they're having a really meaningful conversation, people are defending each other, and then all of a sudden, Judge just goes, "Oh yeah, but you're like a smoking turd or something," and you're
Yeah.
just like, "What?" And it just shows you it's like to your point, it's so well written that you you are starting to become an adult, but you're still really a child. Like you're not
Yeah.
old enough at that point, and so you're trying to have more adult concepts and conversations and intelligence, but really you still have to defend yourself because you have to be protective of yourself to make sure that no one can attack you.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
always on guard. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Like when they're upstairs and having that chat, and it's really opening up. And then, and then Judd starts pushing like Molly like quite a bit, Claire, and then she opens up, and then he just like berates her, and you're just like, this
yeah,
is crazy. Like, what is
yeah.
going on?
Well, he is
Yeah,
the victim of physical abuse, which obviously is,
yeah,
yeah. But watching it back in the day was maybe, yeah, something that he
yeah,
didn't really think through, yeah,
yeah,
completely. So,
yeah.
yeah,
It was
obviously he's,
pretty, yeah, intense, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. But then I
Yeah.
think that's also the like the dynamic because then like
Hmm.
Ali tries to like lighten the mood a couple of times, right? And she's trying
Yeah.
to yeah, sort of, yeah, like say she then says something that kind of, yeah, takes it out of conflict, which then kind of
Yeah.
works in because I think they also obviously a lot of it is to do with their relationships with their parents as well.
Yeah.
And that and again, like when you're yeah, when you're sort of 16, 17, 18, obviously a lot of your life is still kind of sort of guided by your parents, but you're starting to have your own life outside of
Hmm.
that, and that's that's
Yeah.
obviously what school is, right? It's the first time that you really have a relationship outside that your parents just don't know anything about, right? They're
Yeah.
not there, so it's like you out in the world. And I think it's super
Yeah.
interesting again the way that it's written, um yeah, that like it is all about how their parents are pushing them or not pushing them or ignoring them, and yeah, like the all the different ways that yeah, like they're being
Yeah.
impacted by their yeah by their parents in yeah in like
Yeah.
loads of different ways, which again is just very true of like 16, 17, right, where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, my parents are mean
I
to me, or
know.
my parents aren't mean to me, or they ignore me, or they
Yeah.
spend too much time. And like as a
Yeah.
parent now, you yeah, sort of watch it, you're like, well, you just can't really win. So
No,
it's
exactly.
just
You just got to be prepared for the therapy bills. It's the only way to do it. Just do what you want and then just be ready to pay for it later. It's like
yeah.
no one's gonna win. Do you think it makes you think about when Poppy's older at all? Like, do you think like, oh, I've got to do this or that, or are you just like,
I
well,
don't know.
whatever?
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like to know, you like, yeah, how true it is. Like you see,
Yeah.
it's funny because like reading a few of the reviews with on Letterboxd, which sort of tends to have a younger audience, and like yeah,
Mm.
there's sort of people pick up different things. Like people pick up obviously a lot of like, oh well, he sexually abuses Molly when he's underneath the desk,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
yet she still goes with him, and that's like outrageous. And you're a bit like, yeah, but he's not a good guy. Like he's not. It's
Mm.
it's not like let's all be him. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. In yeah, our high school, there was loads of girls who made really bad decisions
Yeah. Yeah.
about people that they dated. So you're kind of like that feels yeah fairly true to life.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
saying that that's great. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't win the movie, does he? Just because some girl kisses him, he still has to go back to an abusive household. So I'm not
Yeah.
really sure that
Yeah.
he's like
And he's got detention for
the
two
hero.
months. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. See you next Saturday. Yeah, so it's yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like obviously, I think because there's that again, there's that like reaction to younger people watching it now, thinking, well, older people like this, so therefore I'm not going to like it. So yeah, I don't know how true it
Interesting.
is. Like, is it still like is high school still high school? Like, yeah, I don't know, but
Imagine it must be right because I think
yeah,
the thing is as well, you have all the hormones that are changing so significantly at that
yeah,
age for men and women, right? And so, regardless of how we want things to be or not want to be, and how civilized or uncivilized we want to be, like I still feel like you will still have you know some level of erratic chaos, be just because the hormones are just going to make you you
yeah,
know bizarre in certain ways. I don't want to say crazy because obviously that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like you just,
yeah.
you,
It's just
like you
new,
like you
isn't it? And
said,
yeah, you're going through a lot
yeah,
of development.
yeah. Like I remember when I was younger and I was a teenager, and I was in the supermarket with my mum, and I was just like, oh, why am I here with my mum? Like, why am I here? And like everyone's looking at me thinking, why are you here with your mum? Which obviously no one is doing that or thinking that. But it's just completely irrational because your body's just going through so much change and like this getting flooded with so many different things. And
Yeah.
obviously your brain's just making up like strange things that aren't real. And it's quite funny when you look back on it now. And I wonder if that's why I like it more now, thinking about it, especially as you get, more to our sort of age now and you sort of a bit more reflective and thinking, you look at those things and you see about how they were talking about things as they were a teenager, and you think, God, yeah, like I said, there's things that were so important to you then that are just so irrelevant now, but it's your whole world at that point.
Yeah,
And it's funny that, like now, I would think it's completely irrelevant, and that's the point. Like, I would be like a parent's age. And so, if your kid comes to you and tells you something that's really important to them, and you go, yeah, well, that's like so insignificant. Why are you worrying about that? But that's their whole world at that age. And I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
it is hard to sort of sometimes maybe remember that, that was, it was important. All these things did make a difference, and you did
yeah,
have to be, mindful of these things. And
yeah,
I think they get that really well. Like you said, they get that connection works really well across, and they pull each of the characters in at different points. And
yeah,
I didn't realize how much of it really was focused on Judd. I didn't remember that being the case, but he obviously, he's a bit older, and he does pull together a very strong performance, and his banter with the teacher as well is just absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
So
But
good.
then it's funny even with the teacher as well, isn't it? Like I don't know, definitely. I think I've appreciated it more as I get older. But it's really clear that
Yeah.
he wants the kids to like him still. Like
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
watching it this time, you're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, like he has never left a high school as well, and you can just kind of tell he's one of those
Yeah.
people that's like, yeah, I still want to be kids, and he gets very upset when he thinks that like yeah that they like don't like him or
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Or
Judd
don't
is having a
respect
go
him.
at him in front of people and he's like don't you'll never embarrass me in front of the kid and you're like dude you're the teacher like you
Yeah.
shouldn't be embarrassed in
What
front
are
of
you worried
kids.
about? Yeah.
So I think they do that really well because obviously he's just a bit of a dick the
Yeah.
whole way through. When he said I love it when he said to Carl he's like well what did you want to be when you were young and he's like oh, I always wanted to be John Lennon. He's like stop goofing around I'm trying to make a point and you're like what you asked him like what are you doing.
He's told you, yeah. Oh dear.
So
And then,
yeah I
like,
think that
who wants
that
to be
like
a teacher?
generational
Yeah, like who wants to be a teacher there on a Saturday, right? I was thinking
yeah
like when he's like, I've got you for 2 months, I'm like, oh my God, why would you want to do this? Who wants
yeah
and the detention starts at 7:06 and there's
yeah
8 hours and 54 minutes. I was like, what is going on?
That's early for detention. I never got
Oh
a
my
detention
Lord.
when I was a kid, but I'm fairly sure
No.
that's super early. I don't think we had weekend detentions, funnily enough. I think it was
Yeah.
always after school.
It was after school. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's almost like that, and that's the thing, isn't it? You see him get really bored. That's why he does the like the cup with the pencil thing, which actually is really
Yeah.
cool. I thought that was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's pretty yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
because that's the thing. Had mobile phones or computers, so he's just sitting
Yeah,
there
yeah.
reading the paper, and then he's like, "Well, that's done. What do I do
Yeah,
now?" And
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
What do I do for the next
yeah,
8 hours? Yeah,
God,
so I think that like yeah, so I think they get that really really well, and I think that there's
mm,
definitely like having watched this as a not as a 16-year-old, but like well yeah I guess yeah me
yeah,
watching this for the first time when I was 16, not that it had just come out, but like watching it as a teenager and then being able to watch it like as you get older, I do
mm,
think yeah, because it sort of resonates so much when you're 16 that it's like, oh,
yeah,
this film really sees me and like sees what's going on, and then yeah, to kind of watch it as you get older and just be able to, as you say, like smile and just be like, oh
yeah,
yeah, that was super important, and there was
yeah,
like the cool people that yeah
yeah.
like thought that everyone idolized them when yeah they really didn't. It was just who
It's just
who
yeah.
even were the cool people. Like it's funny, isn't it?
School
Just to
dynamics, yeah, they're just the worst. Like it's just horrific. You need to just get. It's like get out of school alive, and then then your life begins. It's
but
just
that's it.
school dynamics are so
Which
crazy.
I think is what they like nail straight away when they start talking about like the fact that academic clubs are different to other clubs. Because
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
he's like, well, I'm in the physics club, I'm in the maths club,
yeah,
and
yeah,
she's like, no, those aren't cool clubs. Like that's not what we're talking. That's not what we're talking about. And that like
yeah,
hierarchy is always what was so
yeah,
great about it. Is that like actually like again, you think this hierarchy exists because do you get invited to this party or that party? But it's all
yeah,
just made up, and actually no one like even sort of cares. It's all like the group and that,
Yeah.
which I think they do well in the end with Claire, right, where she's like, well, I can't go against my friends, like,
Yeah.
my friends, but like even her
Yeah.
friends, that's not going to be a unified thing. Every one
Yeah.
of her friends is going to be basically thinking, well, what happens if I go again? I'm going to be ostracized, or I'm not going to be able to. So that's
Yeah.
the thing, isn't it? You're trying to identify with people and be a part of something, but you are an individual. And so then you're like having that
Yeah.
clash as you're trying to find your identity and stuff. And just, I think it just does it in quite a serious way, but also then this is the thing with John Hughes as well. There's always that bit of just like complete sort of almost like sort of fantasy. Like if you
Mm.
watch this movie and said they all fell asleep and actually they
Yeah.
never wake up because they have a dance party, and obviously
Yeah.
after they're smoking he screams and the door shatters and stuff, and like that's
Yeah.
obviously not real, but I think it
Yeah.
it sort of it just lets you like it's a bit like a sort of heightened reality, which arguably you
Yeah.
have as a teenager, because as you say, like you think
Yeah.
everything is super important, and
Yeah.
you
It
you
all
think
revolves
that
around
there's
you.
like everything,
Yeah.
everyone's looking at you when no one is, and
Yeah.
I just think it does it in a really great way, I think, which just
Yeah.
really stands up.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, yeah, like you said, that scene with Claire, Molly's character, yeah, when she talks about like at the end to be realistic, say, no, we're not going to be friends on Monday.
Yeah,
This isn't going to change anything. And you're like, yeah, that's true. Like it's not, as to your point, the groups will still stay the same, even though other people might be thinking the same and wanting to talk to other people. You just still don't go outside of the group dynamics. It's not
yeah,
done. And
yeah,
it's weird, isn't it? I wonder like how and when that starts. Because obviously when you're younger, that definitely doesn't exist. And then it somehow gets embedded into the school somehow as years go on and as you get older. So it's a weird trait of humans, isn't it? That we have to be in like groups, like we have to be in like
yeah.
cohorts. Like we can't just be like one big cohort. We always have to break down into little mini ones. It's a
Until
strange
the
thing.
aliens come, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
we'll be like, oh, actually we're all the same,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually
Then
we're all
we'll
just
be
trying to do the
like,
same thing, like,
yeah,
yeah.
we'll be Will Smith. That slap you've got, get back out here. We need you. Go and start slapping aliens. Yeah. You're
It's,
back
it's,
in.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. If you're all of a sudden having two arms, two legs, you're like, right, okay, well, we're the same. Like
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah.
over there, that's
Yeah.
really different. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It
I mean,
is
I guess
bizarre,
it's
isn't it?
it's again as you're kind of growing up, I think as like different kids mature at different ages, like
Yeah.
at different points. I think that's I think a big differentiator of it. Like the people
Yeah.
that go through puberty maybe earlier, and
Yeah.
then I think that then that's kind of a group which almost becomes the cool group, because you to a certain extent it's like the older people each time, like that you kind of
Yeah.
look up to and stuff. But I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like they do it, but it's yeah. I mean, who knows what the kids would think? But like for me, it's still just that they do it in such a good. Like it is serious, but it is still fun. It's still got great music. There was a lot. There was so much in the detail that like yeah, I sort of hadn't seen.
Mm.
Some of which will stand up, some of which won't. Which maybe yeah
Yeah.
we'll talk about. But like the fact that Alison has a Prince album that she's reading is just
Yeah.
perfect. Like
Yeah.
obviously just yeah, okay, very creative. Like the drawing that she draws is just like
Yeah.
just
It's
ridiculously
amazing.
good. And
And
yet
she
like
doesn't talk for. I looked at it. It was like pretty much a whole
yeah,
hour of the film goes by before she actually
yeah,
starts talking, which
yeah.
is incredible. That she's an integral character and yet doesn't speak for two-thirds of the film.
Yeah. But
It's
still
mad.
like just like it conveys so much.
Yeah,
Like I love the fact she steals the knife where when he like puts the knife in, you just see this hand come out and steal
yeah,
the knife. And yeah,
yeah,
like she's just sort of going through everything, stealing stuff. And even when they're like
yeah,
trying to get back to the room, I always remember the bit where like they're talking about, going one way, and
mm,
Judd wants to go the other, and she just like looks at him and is just like she sort of stamps her feet, and she doesn't say anything, but
yeah,
she's just like, come on, we've got to stick together. And I just always
yeah,
remember that. Like, yeah, I think her acting especially
yeah,
is just really great, because she doesn't, like, everyone else kind of gets a little bit of a monologue where they can
yeah,
kind of, sort of, yeah, cook a little bit, right? And sort of Emilio gets his one, which
yeah,
is, yeah, is very channeling his dad, I think, with the the camera work and
Yeah.
stuff from Apocalypse Now, and then
Yeah.
yeah, like they obviously Judd gets like two or three of his sort of acting scenes. You've got Brian L. D'Antoni, Michael Hall sort of talking about the suicide and the stuff, which I mean, he's committing suicide
That
with
was like
with a flare gun is not gonna is not gonna be great. But I
that's
think
mad
like
though. I don't
that's
remember that at all. Like
oh
I do
really
not remember that storyline, no.
yeah
And I was like, wow, that's huge. That was really bizarre.
yeah
But
yeah
yeah,
because
crazy.
he can't. But then still like because he can't get an F in shop, and then he's like, I took it
Yeah.
because I thought it was going to be easy. And then
Yeah.
like he's like, did you see the people who take shop? And then Judd's like, I take, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got problems. Is basically the
Yeah.
moral of the
Yeah.
story, right? And you just
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah.
if you're just around people and you talk to them for a little bit, you
Yeah.
realize, that we are kind
Yeah.
of all the same, right? So, and I think it just
Yeah, we're all
shows that
flawed.
super well. Yeah.
Was there anything that you didn't like about it? I thought the transformation of the sort of basket case in quotation marks, I didn't think that was necessarily needed. I thought that was a bit, and then the fact that basically her and Emilio Estevez are immediately like boyfriend and girlfriend, it was a bit, it was a bit strange.
I mean,
I wasn't sure if
again,
that was
one
needed.
kiss. Like I don't like the end kiss. I'm
Yeah,
not sure that they're in a healthy relationship. No, yeah, the transformation. I think she looks a lot
yeah,
worse after the transformation than she does there. But that's like very
before,
80s, right? That's very true. What I
yeah,
do think though is I do actually think if you watch it sort of knowing that they're going to get to they're going to kiss at the end. Actually,
yeah,
Emilio and her's interactions all the way through
yeah,
they do build like
yeah.
because
Okay,
she's the person right who calls him on like which I thought was just really funny when they're like he's like everyone's got problems and they're like well what's your problem and she says well he can't think for himself and he says oh she's white
yeah,
like
yeah. That
completely
was so
proving the
good.
point but
Yeah.
that's like actually their interactions and there are like a lot of looks and like
Yeah,
when they're
okay.
kind of sitting on there, like before they do the makeover, he's like looking at her and then he looks away. And obviously, like the first
Yeah.
time that he talks, he does like, yeah, he does sort of open up to her, which is a little bit too easy, I think, the first time. But then even then,
Mm.
she calls him on like him opening up because he's not really, and she's like, yeah, so why are you really here?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I think actually their chemistry I think is actually really good all the way through. But yeah, like
Yeah, okay.
the makeover to
Yeah.
like yeah, sort of normal is very 80s, right? And that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of
It
fine.
was, yeah. Anything else?
I
I mean, I guess
I, I would say if whether he's a loser or not, if I'm ever
yeah.
picking up Poppy and she's kissing a
Yeah, yeah.
guy on the
Yeah.
hood of my car, I'm honking that horn. If you're listening to this, Poppy, in 10
Yeah.
or 20 years from now, just know there is
Uh,
no way I'm not
yeah.
going to
Get off the
like
bonnet.
turn on the windscreen wipers at least, or like spray you with
Oh,
windscreen
wow.
wipers.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I was just like,
Dad.
that's just rude, man. You can't do that
It was a
on his
bit bizarre,
car.
wasn't it? Because that scene goes on for quite a bit of time as well. Like, and you're
Yeah,
just like, what's happening here? It is a bit
yeah,
strange,
yeah. And
but
the only other thing that I thought this time, like it feels for me, it feels a bit quick. Like when they're like, oh,
okay.
we're friends now.
Yeah,
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 like I guess because I'm used
yeah,
to a longer movie, so it just kind of felt
yeah,
like actually like I think it's like in the ratio of how long the movie is, I think it really
yeah,
works. But for
yeah. You have
me,
to
like
accelerate it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but for me now, I'm expecting this to be
Mm,
like a 2 hour or 2 hour 30 movie. And so it just kind of felt
yeah,
like, oh, are they friends? Like they've smoked one joint and had to, and had a dance. I mean, obviously
yeah.
that's how I choose all
Well,
of my friends.
you know,
Uh,
yeah.
but
That's
yeah,
how we
like
met.
it, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we can do that dance. We'll post it to YouTube as a clip.
Yeah,
We can do the Men at
yeah,
Work dance.
yeah,
Yeah, so it was interesting this time. I was a bit like, oh, this seems quick, and then I was like, oh, but actually, I guess the movie only
mm,
has like 10 minutes to go, so it needs to like
yeah.
this conversation
You have
needs
to
to
move it
happen
along.
now. But yeah, it
Yeah,
was the first time that I thought, oh wow, this does feel a super short movie. Which
yeah,
I mean, I've watched a lot of movies this week, so maybe that was just kind of the why it felt like that. But yeah,
yeah.
I
I
thought
think that's
that was
fair.
interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder how it would be because you're right. It is. It is quick, and I think I like it. Doesn't it feels quite tight, which is good. I wonder if it would work as well still if it was longer. Would the scenes work as well? I don't know. It's hard to you just can't tell, can you? Like it might
Yeah,
be much better with that extra 30 minutes, or it just might not work at all. And maybe it worked better with 30 minutes, but it couldn't be based in the 80s because you just don't have the same like structure. It needs to be slightly different.
yeah,
So no, I think yeah, I know what you mean. Like you kind of like, yeah, you guys wouldn't be friends. You've only been here for like 4 hours so far. You know, there's still 4 hours to go. There's not much that's really happened. So, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the 80s, right? You just move on and just don't worry about it. So,
yeah,
was there
yeah.
anything new that you noticed this time?
Yeah, so at the beginning you basically see everything. I didn't realize that at all. So you see Brian's burnt out locker, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
so the flare has gone off in his locker, right? Which is
Ah,
why then presumably Carl
okay.
knows him because he's had to
Yeah,
tidy that up. You see Judd's locker. You see
yeah.
the a newspaper with the wrestler. You see Carl was like man of the year. So he used to be a student
What?
there, and it's actually
Yeah.
like there's a sort of 4 or 5 photos, and it's man of the year, and
Yeah.
you see him there.
See that, yeah. I
Yeah,
saw the
and
Man of the
and then
Year, and men were thinking that's such a weird award to
yeah, yeah.
have.
But that's the thing. Carl's like he's literally like the middle guy, not
Yeah,
de-aged particularly well. So yeah, you do kind of see that. And then funnily enough, I hadn't actually remembered that they do the essay at the start as well as at the end. So
yeah,
that was quite funny.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
good.
another
It's well,
I mean, interesting the places that Alison wants to run away to. Where she's like, I can run away to Israel, Africa, Afghanistan, and you're just like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah.
Those all seem
They're
quite
not,
violent places to
yeah.
go.
At the moment, that's not the best places to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe.
Was there anything you thought that dated it? I mean, obviously, a lot of it is very 80s, right? I mean, the language was so 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, and obviously, like the dancing as well. Like the dancing was terrible. It was
What are
very
you talking about?
80s.
That's,
Yeah.
those are still my
That's how
moves
you
now.
should dance.
Yeah.
Was there
Yeah. I mean,
anything else that dated it?
all of the teacher interactions, right? I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah.
his threats of physical violence now are a bit, yeah,
Yeah.
are a bit over
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah. Let's
Funnily
go.
enough,
Let's go.
yeah, I'm cracking skulls if I have to come in next time. But funnily enough, I think like the bit in the janitor or the like cupboard actually like
Yeah.
probably stands up more because you realize, oh, actually, this guy's just the psycho, like, and is just like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with him. He's like, I'm gonna hunt you down when you're older and then kick your
Yeah.
ass. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's inspirational. It's not. I don't. I did Robin Williams say that at the end of Dead Poets? I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
might be
yeah.
on a deleted scene.
Very similar.
But just like all the way through, he's like, yeah, sort of threatening, very,
Yeah.
which obviously dates it
Perfectly
back
acceptable.
to
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
And
That
then there's
is
just
pretty
loads of
bad.
like small 80s stuff in it. Like I think like
Yeah.
the tying the thread around your finger until it turns red. Like definitely did that.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure I tried to light a match on my teeth once, and it just didn't work at all. And so I have no idea how he did that. And I think it like tastes disgusting because you get the sulfur in your mouth,
Yeah.
which isn't a good thing. So yeah,
No.
I mean it feels very very 80s, but in a
Yeah,
wholly
it does
good
feel
way.
80s. And
How
yeah,
about
and I
you?
think it
Was there
holds up.
anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think just now, as I said, like the language, like, yeah, like, what's it? They says, like, one of them says, gutless turd, says, eat my shorts, is obviously very of the Simpsons of that time. There's all these sort of things that just, are very, the
Leather
language is
fingerless
very,
gloves.
oh my God, yes, I wrote that down. I was like, why were gloves so big in the 80s? I was like, what's going on?
I
Everyone was wearing
may or
gloves.
may not have a pair of leather fingerless gloves. I
Oh,
no
nice.
one was there that I
Wow.
now know, so that can't be
They've all
corroborated or
they've all been
accused.
killed. Yeah. Wow, leather fingerless gloves. I can only picture it now. Yes, definitely the language, the dancing, and obviously just like the general tone of the film, I think. Like, and like you said, the pace of it is very 80s. It's,
Yeah.
yep, you just have to accept this and move on. Let's go. Right, so next thing, and it's not like, oh, hold on a minute, but that's not realistic. It's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's the 80s. Just move on. We've got stuff to do. You know?
Don't want to hang out. We've got to get to the next
Yeah.
monologue.
Yeah, we've got stuff going on. Was any questions you thought it asked or answered? I
I
mean, I
mean,
guess the
I think
suicide
what's
one's a bit interesting, isn't it? Like, how are they get out of that? Because they introduce it and you're like, oh, this is introduced. And they kind of get out of it by trying to make a joke of it. And you're like,
yeah,
is that all right or not? I wasn't sure because I was like, how else do you get out of that? And, maybe the fact that, oh, it's a flare gun, that makes it quite funny because they've got to try and cheer him up somehow because otherwise they're like,
yeah.
what do we say to him? But that was tough, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think they kind of they do that quite well though, right? Because it's kind of
Hmm.
around the time when they're talking about whether they're friends now or not as well.
Yeah.
And like, and he sort of says, right, well, so we're better than you then, because actually we would
Mm.
never treat you like that. And I think that kind of almost, yeah,
Yeah.
gives him a bit more self-esteem. I really love the fact that
Mm.
because he says that to Ali as well, doesn't he? Or to Alison that when
Yeah.
he says, "Oh, if yeah, would you do that with your friends?" And
Yeah.
she says, "Well, I don't have
Yeah.
any friends." But then she does
But
say,
yeah,
"I think
but I
if I
wouldn't.
did, yeah, the type of friends I have wouldn't care if I spoke to you or
Yeah.
not." And I think that was like, oh, actually, again,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, everyone's trapped by something, or everyone feels trapped by something. And I think the
Yeah.
fact that
Especially at that age.
yeah, and I think the fact that they're like, yeah, that he has that experience and stuff, I think it kind of
Yeah.
yeah, maybe helps him. I mean, his average is still going to be still
Yeah.
going to
B
only be a
B
B.
plus.
So
Yeah. So a slight detour. So Anthony Michael Hall in this age, I think he's so like his face is so well known. Like I'd recognize his face in any 80s movie. And
mm,
obviously he's in like Weird Science and those other classics. Now, I had no idea that he's still acting. I've just a little slight detour. He's in the latest season of Reacher, available on
yeah,
Amazon Prime. Please feel free to sponsor our podcast. Yeah, he's in that. You're gonna have to look at the photo of it. He looks completely different. It's so crazy and it's so bizarre because I think he had such a his face was so recognizable. I think in the 80s, and he just
yeah,
looks like completely different. Whereas someone like Emilio Estevez looks pretty much the same, just a little bit bigger and a
yeah.
bit older. He looks like completely different. I like it. I
It's
thought
yeah,
I had no idea. It was just crazy.
it's very yeah, very very early, I guess. I mean, again, he's not yeah, not
Yeah,
done
yeah. He's
anything
only
really.
16, right?
Yeah, he's not really done anything like sort of big since.
In between, yeah. No, that's true. Well, speaking of big characters, so
Well,
we've
no,
got the V's, we've got the
so what
Swayze. Yeah.
I wanted to know for the question, what's your one thing you can do? Because Prince
Oh,
is he
okay.
can cook spaghetti, which I thought was is a bit like the guy in
Genius.
Hook whose happy thought is gum. You're a bit like, is that a talent, being able to cook
Yeah,
spaghetti? I'm not sure. You put
yeah.
it in boiling water.
Well,
That's it.
you got to take it out at the right time, though.
Okay.
So
Stick
it's a
it
good
stick it to
question.
the
I
wall.
don't know. What would
What's
be
your
my
one
one
talent?
thing? Oh, I mean, there's so many to choose from. So how do I limit this down?
Can you can do that lipstick thing? I've seen you do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously just a given. Everyone can do that now. That was quite funny, wasn't it? When she's like, I don't have any talents. And she's like, oh, well, I can do this. You're like, it's not really still a talent, is it? But okay, fine.
Everyone should
It's
have
like,
one talent. We should definitely we
yeah,
should make a YouTube video of talented Mr. Ripley when Jude Law says everyone should have one talent. What's yours? And then it just goes to
yeah.
her putting lipstick on.
Can't deny it. It's the talent. Oh, dear.
I think put
Yeah.
put Tom Ripley in that group and it gets dark very quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He would be good, wouldn't he? He'd be a good little addition to it. I don't know. Oh, pretty good at most sports, I guess. That's
No,
a
but it's
really
like
good
a
talent.
it's like a party trick, right? Although cooking
Oh, like an
spaghetti is
actual.
not. But she
I mean,
it
yeah,
starts
cooking
with Ali
spaghetti, isn't it?
saying that she can write
Mm.
with her toes.
Mm. Well, I think that's just an incredible talent rather than a party trick.
Yeah.
But
Emma can tape everyone's buns together. So
I mean, that scene is that it's quite an interesting scene. I thought that one because they play the music over the top of it to make it like it's a sad scene, and you're supposed to feel sorry for him because obviously he's kind of doing this because he feels like he needs to do this because it's what his dad might have wanted. But ultimately, he has completely humiliated someone else
yeah,
and caused them physical pain as well. I'm
yeah.
like, we shouldn't be feeling sorry for him at all. This
Welcome to
is
school in the
horrific.
80s.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, you feel sorry for me, guys. I'm like really popular, but my life's hard. And, I had to put that tape on that guy's bum. And he's now,
Yeah,
everyone laughs at him. And he's also got physical pain as
yeah,
well. But my,
yeah,
my life's difficult, guys. I don't think you
yeah.
understand. You
But
get a
but
scholarship. This can
again,
be
like
tough.
really, really well. Like Brian reacts to it when he says about it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, that was you," and he's like, "Yeah, you knew him." And you
Yeah.
see like Brian be a bit like, "I
Yeah.
shouldn't be friends with this guy," and then it goes into the monologue
Yeah.
of what's happened. And I think that again is like, yeah, it's just really
Yeah.
well done. Like you see him be like, "Oh, you did that." Like, "Oh, actually,
Yeah.
I shouldn't. Yeah, I shouldn't be friends with you. You're a bit of a monster." So.
Yeah. So what about yours then? Would yours be, I know you do a very good Irish accent. Would that be the do you want to give a bit of it now?
All of my accents are just great. No,
Oh,
I mean my part I can juggle. I can juggle pretty well. So I would say that that would be
oh, right.
my
Isn't that a
my party trick.
prerequisite? Surely everyone can juggle.
Can you juggle? Right,
I
let's
can
see. I'll
juggle,
give
yeah.
you three
Go.
three VHS tapes.
Well, you're making it
We'll
easy
put
for
in
me.
we'll put in the sound effects of you dropping them all. It's
Yeah,
fine.
add in a camcorder. Yeah. So, all right. So come on then. Keanu, Swayze, Gosling, and Stone. What are we
So
thinking? Is that
I've gone strangely I've gone Keanu as Claire.
right? So you've okay. Go on then. Yeah, keep going.
Swayze as Bender, Gosling as
Yeah.
Allison, and Stone as Brian. That was just the way
Mm,
that I thought about it.
okay.
Yeah, like I don't know, Keanu
Okay.
as Andrew as the Jock would be too simple. I see him more
Yeah. He's a
as
complex
Claire.
character these days. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, I was reading about this that originally, when it was due to be made, I think you were saying about this, like 16 Candles ended up getting made instead, and they released
Hmm.
that, and so this got postponed. And then, but in the original casting, it was supposed to be John and Joan Cusack. So John was going to be Judd Nelson's character, and Joan was going to be Alison, like the so-called basket case. So
Yeah.
that could have been interesting. I think that could have
I
worked
was
as
going to say,
well.
I really hope they weren't going to put Joan as Claire and that they had to kiss because that's super
Yeah,
weird. There's only
yeah,
so much you should do for a Hollywood acting career.
yeah,
Kissing
yeah,
your sister
yeah.
is a
That's
step
too
beyond.
far.
So
Yeah, I think that would have been good. That would have been good in that. I mean, I think it still works with the others. Would it have been better? I think maybe Judd Nelson brings something slightly different to this, like a
yeah,
more
he's got an
presence.
edge.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. John Cusack would have been a bit more. It would have been more narrative, right, and more like I think he would have been used his words more. Whereas I think, yeah, Judd is more imposing, which that helps. I think in his character. Yeah, fair
yeah. I
enough.
don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, like it's sort of pre say anything, right? And
Yeah,
John Cusack. Yeah, I don't think would have worked.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. Could be
I think
interesting.
like honestly, I think Ali Sheedy is the best character. Like because she doesn't have
Yeah.
to talk, but she's in a lot,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think she does really well.
yeah. I mean, I honestly, I did time it. I was like, I looked at it. I was like, wow, it is an hour before she talks, but you're actually still in lots of scenes and still adds to the scene and still reacts in scenes,
Yeah,
but there's no actual verbal,
she
anything
makes that
verbal comes from it at
yeah
all. Yeah,
makes that
until for an hour.
sandwich. Everyone's
Oh,
like
that sandwich, yeah, the
she's
dream,
so good at
crisps
it.
and sugar. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, wow, what a sandwich.
Captain Crunch apparently. So this is
Oh,
the
really?
yeah definitely the first film that my wife just sat like was like yeah when are we watching Breakfast Club? And then
Yeah,
it was funny even with the favorite lines like we could say all of the favorite lines before they said them on
yeah, nice.
on the screen.
Yeah,
This is definitely so without a shadow of a doubt this is the film that I've known most off by heart
yeah, yeah.
of the list
Wow.
so far.
Ooh, wow, it might be going up there. This is interesting. So
Yeah.
which character did you have then?
I mean,
You,
Carl.
Carl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
eyes and ears and everything. I think it's great.
yeah.
I love the casual I love the casual blackmail. He's just like, what are you gonna do for me? What do you want? Just
Yeah.
$50. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Sitting there having a nice chat.
Yeah. I mean, I was never very good at CDT, which for our American
Yeah.
listeners
Yeah.
is shop. I think I may have
Mm.
even got an F in my GCSEs for CDT, so I was just awful at
Oh,
it.
right. Fine.
But then I was pretty sporty at school.
Yeah.
I did play basically every sport apart from rugby because
You
why
did
would you
some
play a
wrestling.
sport
Is this what
when
you're
you
trying to
pass
tell
backwards?
us?
Funnily enough, wrestling never not a sport that made it over here.
Yeah. It is interesting that you still
Wrestling
wore
is
tights though. Yeah.
compression undergarments is what they're called. And I was never popular, so I kind of identify
Oh.
with Ali as well. I think I was a little bit more visible than her. So
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't Claire,
Yeah.
and I definitely wasn't Judd. But apart from
Yeah.
that, I think I could have pretty much been any of the others.
A little mix, yeah. Yeah, nice.
How about you? Who do you identify with most?
I think I was probably most like Brian when I was younger, and I think now I'm more annoying, so I'm more like John. So that's how I've grown. I've grown into being the dick. So yeah, that's going to. And I
It's
blame
been
it
a
all on my
long
parents.
journey. You're in Breakfast Club too, where because you met John one time in detention, you've now become
Oh
him.
dear. Yeah. It is funny, isn't it? Like it's so weird how school puts you in these little brackets, and it's so funny. How little sliding door moments can change where you are and stuff. It's just a very interesting dynamic, isn't it? But yeah, happy to not do that again, that's for sure. What about the
But
lines
it'll be
then?
like that in the retirement home that we end up in. It'll be
Yeah.
exactly it'll be
Yeah.
high school
Yeah.
all over again.
I'm like, why is this starting again? This is terrible.
I'm a bender. All
Uh,
right, Brian.
yeah. Damn it.
But everyone will get the reference, and so in a way,
Yeah.
it'll be the happiest time of our life.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
someone
won't
would try
have
to jump in the air and then just break a leg. And that, yeah. God.
That's the hip con. But we won't
Yeah.
have to explain references to obscure 80 movies, so
That is
we'll be happy
true.
again. So
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, we'll just relive them. It'll probably be virtual reality then. Like the actual, we'll
oh
get to
yeah,
choose what our home actually looks like,
yeah,
and it will
yeah.
just look like the Breakfast Club skull.
We'll be
Oh,
able to
wow.
be in the Breakfast Club,
Oh, the
reliving
dream.
it as they do in
Yeah.
no, they do that in Ready Player One. Fairly sure they do
They do Breakfast Club.
in the book. I think rather than
Yeah,
the
yeah.
movie. I think
Oh,
you can be in the movie.
yeah. Oh, the book was so much better than the movie. Such a shame the movie was terrible. What about lines then? So I know you said obviously you quote a lot of them. Any like come to mind specifically?
Yeah, I think it's just the interplay. There's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of things, but like that, you know, he can't think for himself. She's right. I think it's super
Yeah,
funny.
that's really good.
I think when she says, "Do you want to look at my bag?" and they both just say no. I think that's yeah, that's really
Uh,
funny. When Emilio says, "Oh, you know, he has a name. What's your name?"
yeah.
and
Yeah.
he doesn't know. And then I think even the
Uh,
first thing that Ali says when Claire sort of complains about her parents or something, she just says "ha," and then she says "shut up," and you're like, that's literally the only
yeah.
word that she said. It's a bit like knives. Again, I can be
Yeah.
quieter. So yeah, I thought that was that was good. I think like when you grow up, your heart dies, and I think and again like just her
Yeah.
delivery
That's so
when
harsh.
he says who cares and she says I care and she's like welling up. Just yeah,
Yeah.
really good performance.
Yeah. She has a lot of the good lines, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I think like there's one that just pretty much sums the whole film up for me, where they just say, "My God, are we going to be like our parents?" And it's like, "Yep, you
Yeah.
are. You are going to be like your parents." I'm glad that you caught that early because it's depressing once you finally realize it.
You're going to be like your
Mm.
parents. You're going to marry someone like your other parent.
Ah!
Just
What
the
about
reality of high school. I mean, my one for the
the
podcast
pod?
was
Yeah.
you think he's bitching. I was just like, yeah.
Oh, nice. That's good. I had
Also, maybe
we're all
I've laid lots of times.
Yeah. That scene is brilliant, and you just know it. I mean, everyone knows it's fake when it's going through, and it's like, I mean, there's already holes in it before I even prod. It's like,
I think
it's
that is where the Canadian girlfriend thing came from, like.
oh yeah, it is. It's very good, isn't it? I had for the pod, I had all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it than others. I thought that's a good summation of our podcast.
Taking people through 100 movies shows just
Yeah,
how bizarre you are.
yeah, yeah. And then maybe we're just less good at hiding it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
What
back with a
about
bang with
reviews?
the 3-star reviews. Funnily enough,
Yes,
these some
times.
reviews that are very very up and down. So someone
Yeah,
said
okay.
corny characters and corny storyline. It's not awful, but unless you want to rekindle fond memories, probably best to give it a miss. Unless you're a confused
Mm.
teenager who hates schools and feels misunderstood.
Yeah, and
Brilliant.
then definitely
Yeah,
watch this.
then
Yeah.
definitely watch it.
Yeah.
We found it pretty boring, and we're living for the final scene and song, Don't You Forget About Me. Apart from that, it was a
Yeah.
couple of hours we won't get back. Don't regret watching
Well,
it though.
so bizarre. So
Just
bizarre.
really turns,
Uh,
doesn't it, in that last bit?
yeah,
I love the premise of the film, but it's just too deep and heavy. But it's got a good feel good vibe to it, so I would say I would watch it once, but it's not gripping and good enough to see it more than once or twice.
yeah.
Definitely not 4 or 5 times.
What? So crazy. Like, can you just do the first bit of that again?
I love the premise of the film, but it's just deep and heavy. But it's got
Yeah.
a good feel good vibe to it. It just
Yeah.
you
How is
just
it too deep and heavy, but it's got a good feel good vibe to it?
but it's
It's
not
just
gripping
like
enough
that.
to watch once or twice,
Yeah.
but definitely not 4 or 5 times.
Oh my God, that person is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Girlfriend wanted this, so I thought the film was okay, but she loved it, took her back to her childhood. However, it's a bit
Yeah.
unrealistic. It wouldn't happen in real life. It is a bit far-fetched. Maybe I'm just getting old now at 22, but I think this film was a
Oh
bit
my
young for
God.
me.
Oh my God. I
Which
mean, films, what's wrong with people? Like, if it's supposed to be reality, why are you watching it? Just get up and go outside.
it's just maybe they're just too old at 22.
Yeah, yeah.
This just
Yeah, that's
seems too
true.
too far. Maybe they should put on
Getting
St.
too old.
Elmo's Fire, and then they
Yeah,
can see if that's
probably.
more realistic. And then someone said, I decided to watch this again nearly 15 years later. I'm now 30.
Mm,
Oh dear,
yeah.
just goes to show how one's attitudes and values can be eroded away, marginalized, and generally ruined as one grows older. I found
Ah,
myself on the side of Paul Gleason's detention teacher.
wow.
So, but that person is saying like that it's not about the film. They're like, oh,
No.
I used to like it and now I don't because my attitudes and values have been eroded
Yeah.
away. You're
I
like,
believe that the children should be sitting down and doing their essay.
well, and
Yeah,
just that
wow.
they're sad that they're like the film is great. It's me who's aged, and I'm really disappointed. I feel like this is like they've had a
Oh,
midlife
flare gun.
crisis in a 3-star review where they're
Yeah,
just gonna completely
yeah,
they're gonna move to Israel or Africa or
yeah.
Afghanistan.
Yeah,
So
Pakistan, yeah.
yeah,
They
and
are
then
some good
you
3-star
you
reviews.
can actually you can buy a poster signed by all of the stars on Amazon.
Ooh,
What
yeah.
how much do you think that's going for?
Oh, I mean, really, a poster should be too expensive, but I guess you got to ship it as well. So,
Signed by all of the stars?
I don't know, £50?
5.99. So
Oh, wow.
I don't think
But
that's
why
very
haven't you ordered
legitimate,
it?
but also I think that's a photocopy. But unless
Mm.
they're all splitting that, and basically it's £6 and everyone gets a pound. They're
Wow.
they're Judd
£6
Nelson.
delivered. That's impressive.
Judd Nelson never went and did anything. Maybe he's living off
Yeah.
those poster sales. Who
I
knows?
think so. Well, apparently they all got together. I think this was the year of the 40th anniversary, and every other time they've got together, Emilio Estevez hasn't been there, but he joined them this time. So he's obviously
Oh.
thought, I think my career is definitely finally over. I will now join you guys. Whereas everyone else's career had already finished, so they were like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
done. So we'll do the
Maybe
reunions.
maybe it
Yeah.
was the Bratz documentary that
pulled him out.
that caused that because
Maybe.
he's super uncomfortable in that because apparently the
Yeah.
whole Brat Pack thing came from the journalist was there to interview him, and he's super
Okay.
uncomfortable when he's like confronted by it. Yeah,
Really?
you can tell like
Mm.
because Andrew McCarthy basically says like it's your fault that we had it, and then they talk about
Yeah.
a film that they turned down that was
They're all
like
kids, right? I mean, come on. You can't
yeah.
blame someone for like creating a like a name. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah. Well,
know,
then
you all
they go and talk to the journalist, or he goes and talks to the journalist. So, yeah,
yeah.
watch it. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
although
Oh
it's a
well.
bit sad. But maybe that's the double feature. Do you think?
Well,
Go and watch the
I
documentary.
think no, my double feature was either Empire Records or Clueless. And
Okay.
I was like, I think Empire Records, so then you'd be like, this is how it should be done. So you're like, or Clueless, I thought Clueless would be like a fun one because it's still like a high school, but almost the exact opposite, where the
Just
your
from
class, yeah, like matters at school.
yeah.
So you'd probably maybe watch Clueless first and then learn some life lessons afterwards by watching this.
Yeah, I went for Footloose. Funnily enough, keep it in the
Oh, nice.
80s, keep it
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
the kids growing
yeah,
up trying to do something. But
yeah,
with the with the something. I mean, I do think that maybe one day in the shop we should just watch 1985 movies. And we could do Back
yeah.
to the Future, Goonies,
Oh,
Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, Teen Wolf.
yeah. I'm
What a
in.
year! What a year to be alive. That's
What a year to be alive. Yeah, they all sound amazing. I'm on. I'm on board.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Algo.
Algo, we've updated to the different AI.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I get the feeling this is going to be harder to beat now. What did
Yeah.
you have?
Well, I had some Elmo's Fire, obviously, very similar, just slightly older. Empire Records, again, similar, but obviously with
Quite
not
different.
quite the same level of script.
Bit
And then a
of a
slightly
different
more
vibe.
modern one I went for was Mean Girls. So,
Okay.
which is, I think is like a similar take, but like on a more modern scenario. So yeah,
Yeah.
what did the new AI have?
Okay, so I said don't make it too obvious with recommendations, first of all.
Yeah.
And I did say give me an explanation. Number one, they came back dazed and confused,
Mm,
which is
mm,
very
yeah.
much, it's about high school, the end of high school. It's got that same bittersweet, aimless energy and a cast of characters that feel both cool and lost.
Wow.
This is an
Blimey.
upgrade on the AI
Yeah.
because that's a very good description.
I think you've given it too good a prompt. You're helping it too much.
My prompt was take down Kev in in Longbow Video.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they then had Edge of 17, which
Mm,
the Haley
okay.
Steinfeld's performance, in which they say Haley Steinfeld's performance is raw and relatable, diving into isolation, friendship, and finding your voice, much like the inner struggles we saw in Claire, Brian, and the rest.
No, they're trying to be too clever. They're losing it.
Yeah, yeah. And then number three was actually Submarine. Have you ever watched Submarine?
Oh,
Which is
no.
Richard Ayoade movie, which is
Oh
like
yeah.
an indie sort of
Yeah.
like teenage awkwardness, which is a very
Yeah.
funny film. It's not
No.
a lot like this film because it is. I mean, it's Richard Ayoade, so it's a bit
Yeah.
off the wall, but it is very good. And then it says Skins, and it says why? Okay, not a
TV
movie,
show?
but hear me out.
Yeah. No,
Which
not having this.
yeah,
Lost
again,
automatically.
you're a bit like, okay, AI, stop showing off. Like you're still, don't say
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
not a movie, but hear me out.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, we can
what?
all come up with TV series that are like this. Yeah. I
Starting to get
think
worse and
it's
worse. So
lost.
I think the
Oh.
fact that it deliberately went against,
Mm.
although I don't think Clueless and Empire Records are like this film at all. I don't think.
They were in my double feature. They weren't in my similar.
Oh, what
I've got
was?
some Almost Fire, Empire Records, and Mean Girls.
Okay.
I think I've nailed it still. You're gonna have to come up with
I
a better
don't.
prompt.
St. Elmo's Fire. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure that St.
It's
Elmo's
the
is a
same, they're
bit.
just a bit older.
It's all the same people. They're just a bit older, and it's
Yeah.
rubbish, and
It
it's a
also
bit.
came up with St. Elmo's Fire, so that's like net neutral.
No, it didn't come up with Then I was Then it had The Myth of the American Sleepover from 2010. Never even heard of that movie. So
No.
okay, so no, I'm not going to give that. I'm not going to give that to either of you.
Oh,
You're getting
scandal.
disqualified on
Absolute
the St.
scandal.
Elmo fire new clause because that was an awful
Just because you
movie.
hated it. Yeah.
It was just rubbish. It felt like
Mm.
it was trying to be this, but it wasn't written as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Older, aren't they? So it's like
Yeah,
different dynamics, and yeah,
yeah.
it's
I
questionable if it
think if you
works.
like Breakfast Club, you're going to hate Empire Records.
It's basically the same. It's just with bad writing.
It's good. It's basically saying like this is the 80s is great, and now the 90s
Mm.
just is just rubbish and lost its way.
Yeah,
And Mean Girls is probably the
yeah.
closest. Although
Nailed
again,
it.
yeah, does it? Yeah, it's sort of a bit
Oh.
more comedy, a bit more like Clueless.
Mm.
So no,
All right, draw
we're
then.
gonna keep it. Yeah, gonna keep it equal.
All right then. So it's number 24. Where's it going on the list?
Yeah. So obviously, like because we had 25 was taken, Scott Pilgrim then came down to 24. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it here at 23. I do really like it. It has so much
Okay.
nostalgia for me. It is. I do think it really stands up, and I do
Mm.
think it's yeah, and I do think it's really great. And so yeah, like top 25 movie, 23.
There you
There's a
go.
couple that might move around and sort of make it
Yeah.
lower in the end, but yeah, I think it's yeah for me still really like it, and so
Yeah.
then moving movies up now
Yeah.
in
It's
the list
tough.
is going to be that's going to be a bold move
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of
I
classics in
wonder
there.
if any are gonna like fall significantly down. I mean, that would be the interesting thing. Yep.
Probably, I would say there's three that I haven't seen very
Ooh.
recently that might fall
Ooh.
down.
Interesting.
Yeah, but how
Oh,
about you? It sounds
yeah.
like it's definitely in the good section. It sounds like you enjoyed it more than you've ever enjoyed it before, which is that's nice. That's
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely enjoyed this way more than I've ever enjoyed it. So, yeah, I put it as number 15. So, firmly in the good section, just below Edge of Tomorrow and above Spy Game. So, a nice little trio of movies there.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that'd be
definitely
good.
the best time I've ever seen this, I must admit. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, yeah, it's detention is nearly up, so we can go leave the shop again. We can unlock the door. The entire thing with the door is just also classic. I love that.
Oh
I
yeah,
love that
just
scene.
yeah, true.
It's like
Sometimes screws just
that's
go missing. It's just it happens.
it's an imperfect world. Great, yeah. For next week, the classic line, which you don't hear very often.
Mm.
We thought you was a toad.
Oh,
Said several times, whispered very loudly, but
yeah.
still very good. Thanks to Tom Miller for the theme song. I think we're going to finish up now, and we're going to write an essay, summing up season one and what
Nice.
it's taught us about ourselves. And we'll see you next week.